Imagine looking out at a perfectly still, calm lake. It is a picture of absolute serenity. Now, imagine that same lake, just a few hours later, suddenly tearing itself open. A massive, terrifying whirlpool forms out of nowhere, swallowing everything in its path. Giant drilling rigs, entire botanical gardens, even reversing the flow of a connected river. What sounds like a scene from an apocalyptic movie actually happened in real life. It is one of the most bizarre and catastrophic environmental disasters in American history, yet many have never heard of it. Was it a freak act of nature or a catastrophic human error? Today, we are diving deep into the terrifying true story of Lake Peigneur. You won't believe how this nightmare unfolded. The surface of Lake Peigneur in Louisiana always appeared tranquil, a shallow body of fresh water, popular with local fishermen. But beneath that calm, 10-foot deep surface lay a complex geological formation, a massive salt dome. These enormous subterranean structures are exactly what they sound like. Gigantic pillars of salt pushed up through the Earth's crust over millions of years. And in the oil industry, salt domes are highly prized. Geologists know that the edges of these domes often trap significant deposits of crude oil and natural gas. This geological reality brought the Texaco Oil Company to Lake Peigneur in November of 1980. They set up a massive drilling rig, a towering structure floating right on the surface of the lake, with the intention of tapping into those lucrative reserves hidden deep alongside the salt dome. The plan was standard procedure: drill down alongside the dome, extract the oil, and move on. But there was another operation happening simultaneously at Lake Peigneur, one that had been running for over 6 decades. Deep inside that very same salt dome, directly beneath the lake, lay the Diamond Crystal Salt Mine. Since 1919, miners had been carving out a vast subterranean cathedral of salt. The mining operation was extensive and operated on multiple levels. Early excavation happened closer to the surface, around 800 feet down. But over the decades, they dug deeper, creating enormous caverns at 1,000 feet, 1,300 feet, and eventually 1,500 feet below the ground. To give you an idea of the scale, the lowest tunnels were massive, up to 100 feet wide and 80 feet high. The miners used a technique called room and pillar mining. They would extract massive amounts of salt, creating huge rooms, but intentionally leave behind colossal pillars of solid salt to support the immense weight of the earth and the lake above. It is a delicate balance. The entire structural integrity of this underground world depended entirely on those salt pillars remaining intact. And salt, as we all know, dissolves incredibly quickly in water. If a significant amount of fresh water ever breached that mine, the pillars would melt, the roof would lose its support, and the entire structure would collapse in on itself. On the morning of November 20th, 1980, the two separate worlds, the oil rig on the surface and the salt mine deep below, were about to violently collide. Up on the surface, the Texaco drilling crew encountered a problem. Around 6 a.m., their 14-inch drill bit, probing thousands of feet below the surface, suddenly became stuck. This is not entirely uncommon in deep-water drilling, but this time was different. Despite their efforts, the drill refused to budge. Then, a sharp, sudden jolt shook the entire platform. The crew knew instantly that something catastrophic was happening below. They made the split-second, life-saving decision to abandon the rig immediately, scrambling onto a small boat and speeding toward the shore. They barely made it. Within minutes of their escape, the towering, multi-million-dollar drilling platform simply vanished. It tilted, groaned, and sank entirely out of sight into a lake that was only supposed to be 10 feet deep. But the vanishing rig was just the beginning. The lake itself began to churn. A small depression formed on the surface, quickly expanding into a massive, terrifying whirlpool. The vortex grew with astonishing speed, its power pulling in everything on the lake's surface. Meanwhile, 1,300 feet below, the nightmare was unfolding in the dark. 55 miners had descended into the diamond crystal salt mine that morning for their regular shift. They were working deep underground when they heard a strange, alarming sound. One miner investigated and saw fuel drums banging together in knee-deep, muddy water. This was no minor leak. The water was rushing in with terrifying force. The emergency alarms blared. The lights flashed 3 times, the universal signal to evacuate immediately. The situation was dire. They had 55 men deep underground, water rapidly flooding the tunnels, and only one slow-moving elevator to get them out. The elevator could only carry 8 men at a time. It was a harrowing, agonizing wait. The miners had to stand in the rising water, watching the structural integrity of their workplace dissolve around them, waiting for their turn to escape. Yet, through sheer discipline and rigorous emergency training, panic did not take over. After a grueling hour, every single one of the 55 miners made it to the surface alive. When they emerged, they stepped into a scene of unimaginable destruction. The lake they knew was gone, replaced by a monstrous, swirling crater. The cause of the disaster quickly became apparent, though the sheer scale of it remained shocking. The Texaco drill had not just snagged on a rock, it had pierced the roof of the diamond crystal salt mine. A 14-inch hole might seem insignificant in a massive underground cavern, but under the immense pressure of the lake above, it was fatal. The fresh water from Lake Peigneur rushed through that puncture wound. As the fresh water cascaded into the mine, it rapidly dissolved the salt walls and the crucial support pillars. The more salt dissolved, the wider the hole became, and the faster the water rushed in. It was a devastating exponential reaction. Within hours, the structural integrity of the massive underground caverns completely failed. The roof of the mine collapsed, and the entire lake began draining into the massive void below. The vortex on the surface became a monstrous drain, swallowing the drilling rig, 11 barges, a tugboat, entire sections of the nearby botanical gardens, and acres of surrounding land. The suction was so powerful that it actually reversed the flow of the Delcambre Canal. Normally, this canal flowed out of Lake Peigneur and into the Gulf of Mexico. But on that day, the canal began flowing backward, pulling salt water from the Gulf into the collapsing crater. The sheer volume of water displacement was staggering. An estimated 3.5 billion gallons of water drained into the massive subterranean caverns. The immense pressure of the displaced air escaping the mine caused a geyser of water, mud, and debris to erupt from the mine shaft, shooting 400 feet into the air. For nearly 2 days, the chaos continued until the massive underground void was finally filled. When the water level eventually stabilized, Lake Peigneur was fundamentally changed forever. The shallow, 10-foot deep freshwater lake had been replaced by a crater that was now over 200 feet deep in places. The freshwater ecosystem was utterly destroyed, replaced by the salt water pulled in from the Gulf of Mexico. The lake became a marine environment, home to saltwater species of plants and fish that had never existed there before. The aftermath of the Lake Peigneur disaster immediately raised the crucial question: how could such a catastrophic error happen? The oil company knew the salt mine was there. It was not a secret. The exact details remained somewhat murky because the crucial evidence, the drilling platform, the logs, the physical drill itself, was all swallowed by the sinkhole. However, Subsequent investigations and expert analysis pointed to a devastatingly simple, yet profound, human error. It is widely believed that the surveyors made a critical miscalculation in their coordinates. They misread a map projection, likely confusing the transverse Mercator projection coordinates, leading them to drill directly over the highest point of the salt mine rather than beside it. A simple mathematical mistake on a piece of paper resulted in the destruction of an entire lake and a massive industrial complex. The legal fallout was significant. While nobody went to jail for the catastrophic miscalculation, the financial settlements were massive. Texaco and the drilling contractor paid out $32 million to the owners of the Diamond Crystal Salt Mine and another $2.8 million to the owners of the destroyed botanical gardens. The salt mine was permanently closed in 1986, the underground caverns abandoned to the water forever. The Lake Peigneur disaster stands as a stark, terrifying reminder of the immense power of nature and the devastating consequences of human error when interacting with complex geological systems. A seemingly minor miscalculation on a survey map triggered an unstoppable chain reaction, proving that when we drill blindly into the earth, we are sometimes just one misplaced decimal point away from catastrophe. Was the disaster at Lake Peigneur caused by human error? Or was it nature's fury? The answer still remains a mystery. What do you think? Was it a drilling mistake or something far more powerful? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. See you in the next episode. Thank you.